Hello, welcome to the next session on computer graphics and visualizations. So we'll continue with the basics of computer graphics. So in this video lecture, we'll be discussing about the video display devices. We are also going to understand the working of a cathode ray tube or the CRT display. We'll try to understand the components and the working of this cathode ray tube. We'll understand the difference between what do you mean by raster scan displays and random scan displays. And we'll also be talking about different types of displays, that is the different types of flat panel displays as well. So let us see what you mean by video display devices. The primary output device in a graphic system is a video monitor. Historically, the operation of most video monitors was based on standard cathode ray tube, or we call it as the CRT by design, but several other technologies do exist now. In the recent years, flat panel displays have become significantly more popular due to their reduced power consumption and thinner designs. So compared to the earlier CRT display devices, flat panel displays, they offer the benefit of lesser power consumption, and they also consume very less space as compared to that of the earlier CRT monitors. Now let us try to understand the components of a cathode ray tube or a CRT. Let us first try to understand the components here. So a cathode ray tube, it basically has an electron gun at the base, which is connected to a bunch of connector pins. We have a focusing system, magnetic deflection coils. On the screen there is a coating of phosphor. We can call it as a phosphor coated screen, and the electron gun will emit an electron beam. These are the components of a cathode ray tube. A beam of electrons emitted by an electron gun, so it is going to illuminate, or it's going to illuminate a spot on the phosphor screen as it passes through the focusing and the deflection coils, as it is shown in this particular diagram, right? So an electron gun is going to emit a beam of electrons. The electron beam shall pass through the focusing and deflection mechanisms. So these systems direct the beam towards the specific positions on the phosphor coated screen. The phosphor then emits a small spot of light at each position contacted by the electron beam, and the light emitted by the phosphor fades very rapidly. So the moment the electron strikes a particular spot on the phosphor coated screen, that particular spot will be illuminated. And also the light emitted by the phosphor fades very rapidly. So one way to maintain the screen picture is to store the picture information as a charge distribution within the CRT in order to keep the phosphors activated. The most common method now employed for maintaining the phosphor glow is to redraw the picture repeatedly by quickly directing the electron beam back over the same screen point. This type of CRT is called as a refresh CRT. So continuously illuminate the same spot multiple times, continuously redraw the contents on the screen, continuously refresh the electron beam. Such type of CRT, we call it as a refresh CRT, where in order to maintain the phosphor glow, the picture will be redrawn repeatedly by quickly directing the electron beam over the same screen points. Hence such type of CRT will be called as the refresh cathode ray tubes. The frequency at which the picture is redrawn on the screen is referred to as the refresh rate. There is a term called as the refresh rate, which is the frequency at which a picture is redrawn on the screen in order to maintain a proper picture on the screen. That is called as the refresh rate, the frequency at which the picture is redrawn on the screen. Now let us try to understand the focusing mechanism in a cathode ray tube. The primary components of an electron gun in a CRT are the heated metal cathode as it is shown here, and a control grid. The heat is supplied to the cathode by directing a current through a coil of wire called the filament inside the cylindrical cathode structure. This causes the electrons to be boiled off the hot cathode surface. Inside the CRT envelope, the free negatively charged electrons are then accelerated towards the phosphor coating by a high positive voltage. The intensity of the electron beam is controlled by the voltage at the control grid. Since the amount of light emitted by the phosphor coating depends upon the number of electrons striking the screen, the brightness of a display point is controlled by varying the voltage on the control grid. So, by varying the voltage on the control grid, we can control the brightness of the display points on the screen. If we want to control the brightness of the screen, we need to control the voltage on the control grid. The focusing system in a CRT forces the electron beam, as it is shown here, to converge to a small cross section as it strikes the phosphor and is accomplished with either electric or magnetic fields. With electrostatic focusing, the electron beam is passed through a positively charged metal cylinder so that the electrons at the center or along the center line of the cylinder are in equilibrium position. Deflection of the electron beam can be controlled with either electric or magnetic fields. So, we can either use electric or magnetic fields to deflect the electron beams, left, right, top or bottom. Cathode ray tubes are commonly constructed with two pairs of magnetic deflection coils. One pair is mounted on top and bottom of the CRT neck, as it is shown here. Right here we have the magnetic deflection coils, and the other pair is mounted on the opposite sides of the neck. The magnetic fields produced by each pair of coils results in a transverse deflection force that is perpendicular to both the direction of the magnetic field and the direction of the travel of the electron beam. So, horizontal and vertical deflections are accomplished with these coils. We can use magnetic deflection coils for horizontal and vertical deflection of the electron beam, or we can also use these vertical and horizontal deflection plates as it is shown in this particular diagram. So, this is called as electrostatic deflection. Okay. When electrostatic deflection is used, two pairs of parallel plates are mounted inside the CRT envelope, where one pair is mounted horizontally and one pair is mounted in the vertical direction. So, one pair is mounted in the horizontal direction to control the vertical deflection of the electron beam, and the other pair is mounted vertically to control the horizontal deflection. Okay. Now, the spots of lights are produced on the screen by the transfer of CRT beam energy to the phosphor on the screen. When the electron beam collide with the phosphor coating, they are stopped by their kinetic energy. They are stopped and their kinetic energy is absorbed by the phosphor. Part of the beam is converted by the friction into heat energy, and the remainder energy causes the electrons in the phosphor atoms to move up to the higher quantum energy levels. After a short time, the excited photon, the phosphor electrons begin dropping back to their stable ground state, giving up their extra energy as small quantums of light energy called as the photons. So, whenever the electron beam is focused and deflected at a particular point on the screen, it strikes there. So, whenever it strikes there, the kinetic energy of the electrons is converted into light energy by the phosphor coating. So, that is how the refresh cathode ray tubes work. Okay, we have an electron gun which acts as a cathode. At the base of the cathode ray tube, we have the focusing system. We have the deflection coils, magnetic deflection coils, or the electrostatic deflection plates. We have a phosphorus coated screen where the illumination will occur in order to display a particular graphics. Now, let us proceed to understand what do we mean by resolution of a CRT. When we see on the screen, what we see on the screen is a combined effect of all the electrons' light emissions, a glowing spot that quickly fades after all the excited phosphor electrons have returned to your ground energy level. The frequency of light emitted by the phosphor is proportionate to the energy difference between the excited quantum state and the ground state. Lower persistence phosphors are required, higher refresh rates to maintain a picture screen without a flicker. There are different types of phosphor. We have something called as low persistence phosphor and high persistence phosphor, depending upon the duration for which they can glow after the electron beam has struck at a particular spot. The maximum number of points that can be displayed without overlap on a CRT is referred to as a resolution. So what is the resolution of a CRT? It is the maximum number of points that can be displayed without an overlap on a CRT. That is called as the resolution of a CRT. The maximum number of points or the pixels that can be displayed without an overlap on a CRT. The resolution of a CRT is dependent on the type of phosphor, the intensity to be displayed, and the focusing and deflection systems. So all these factors contribute to the resolution. So what are the factors that affect the resolution of a CRT? Depends upon the type of phosphor, depends upon the intensity to be displayed, as well as the focusing and the deflection system. High resolution systems are often referred to as high definition systems. Systems with very high resolution, we call them as high definition systems or the HD systems. That is the resolution of a CRT. So we discussed the components of a CRT, the working of the deflection mechanisms, magnetic coils, as well as the electrostatic deflection, and how is the electron beam causes the photon to illuminate on the screen. And we also discussed what is the resolution of a CRT. Let us try to understand two different types of displays. There are two different types of displays. One we have is something called as raster scan displays, and one more we have is something called as random scan displays. Let us first try to understand raster scan displays. The electron beam is swept across the screen one row at a time from top to bottom. As it is shown in this diagram, the electron beam is swept across the screen one row at a time from top to bottom. All these horizontal line represents the row of one row where the electron beam will be swept across the screen. So the electron beam is swept across the screen one row at a time from top to bottom. As the electron beam moves across each row, the beam intensity is turned on and off to create a pattern of illuminated spots. Okay, wherever we want to illuminate that particular spot, for that particular spot the electron beam will be turned on. So as the electron beam moves across each row, the beam intensity will be turned on or off to create a pattern of illuminated spots. Whichever spot we want to illuminate, at that particular spot the electron beam intensity will be turned on in order to create a glowing pixel or a glowing point over there. This scanning process is called as refreshing. The scanning of the electron beam and turning on or off the intensity of the electron beam from left to right, top to bottom, we call it as the refreshing. Each complete scanning of a screen is normally called as one frame. So one complete scan of the screen from top to bottom, left to right, we call it as one frame. The refreshing rate, called as a frame rate, is normally 60 to 80 frames per second. That is, every second 60 to 80 times the electron will sweep across the entire screen. 60 to 80 times. That is what we call as the refresh rate, or the refreshing rate, or the frame rate. It's also described in terms of hertz, that is 60 hertz or 80 hertz. Picture definition is stored in a memory area called as a frame buffer. The definition of a picture is stored in the area of memory area called as the frame buffer. The frame buffer stores the intensity values for all the screen points. So for which screen point, what should be the intensity, that will be stored in this frame buffer, which is a part of the memory. Each screen point is called as a pixel or the picture element. Okay, every screen point that will be illuminated, we call it as a picture element. Property of the raster scan is the aspect ratio, which is defined as the number of pixel columns divided by the number of scan lines that can be displayed on the screen. That is what we call as the aspect ratio. It is defined as the number of pixel columns divided by the number of scan lines that can be displayed on a system. So in case of black and white systems, the frame buffer storing the values of the pixels is called as a bitmap. Okay, we maintain something called as a bitmap in case of black and white systems to store the values of the pixels. Each entry in the bitmap is a 1 bit data which determines the on represented by 1 and off represented by 0 for the intensity of the pixel. It contains only either zeros or ones. We call it as a bitmap. So this bitmap is used to define the values for the pixel in case of black and white systems, because there is only two possible values: either turn on, white color will be displayed, or turn off, black will be displayed. Now in case of color systems, the frame buffer is storing the value of the pixels using something called as a pixmap, Pixmap, or the bitmap. So on color systems, unlike the black and white systems where we use the bitmap, in case of color systems, the frame buffer will store the values for the pixel using something called as a pixmap. Each entry in the pixmap occurs a number of bits to represent the color of a pixel. For a true color display, the number of bits for each entry is 24. That is 8 bits for red color, 8 bits for green, and 8 bits for blue. Each channel will be having 250 levels of intensity value. So 256 voltage settings for each of the red, green, and blue color electrons. Right? In case of color random scan, raster scan displays, the frame buffer will store something called as a pixmap, which will contain the number of bits that is required to represent the color of the pixel. So for a true color display system, the number of bits for each entry is 24 bits, and there needs to be 256 levels of intensity value, that for 256 voltage settings for each red, green, and blue electron guns. So that is in case of a raster scan displays. So in short, in raster scan display, the electron beam is swept across one row at a time from top to bottom. As it moves across each row, the beam intensity is turned on or off to create a pattern of illuminated spots. This process of scanning is called as a refreshing. Okay. Now let us try to understand the next type of display, which we called as the random scan displays. So when operated as a random scan display unit, a cathode ray tube has electron beam directed only to those parts of the screen where the picture is to be displayed. Unlike the raster scan systems where each and every row will be traversed, here there is no such concept. Here the electron beam strikes only those parts of the screen where the picture is to be displayed. Pictures are generated as line drawings, with the electron beam tracing out the component lines one after another. Rather than drawing one point at a time, here we are going to draw one line at a time. For this reason, random scan monitors are also referred to as vector displays, or stroke striking displays, or stroke writing displays, or calligraphic displays. The component lines of a picture can be drawn and refreshed by a random scan system in any specified order. Okay, the components of the lines of a picture can be drawn and refreshed on random scan display in a random order, hence the name random scan display. Refresh rate on a random scan system depends upon the number of lines to be displayed on that particular system. Okay, that is a random scan system where the electron beam is directed only to those parts of the screen where the picture is to be displayed. So pictures are generated as line drawings with the electron beam tracing out the component lines one after another. Picture definition is now stored as a set of line drawing commands in an area of the memory referred to as a display list, refresh display file, vector file, or the display program. Unlike the raster scan systems where we use bitmap and pixmap, in case of random scan display, the picture definition is now stored as a set of line drawing commands in an area of the memory referred to as the display list, refresh display file, vector file, or the display program. To display a specified picture, the system cycles through the set of commands in the display file, drawing each component line in turn. After all line drawing commands have been processed, the system cycles back to the first line command in the list. Random scan displays are designed to draw all the component lines of a picture 30 to 60 times each second, with up to 1 lakh short lines in the display list. When a small set of lines is to be displayed, each refresh cycle is delayed to avoid very high refresh rates which could burn out the phosphor. So when small sets of lines are to be displayed, the refresh cycle is delayed to avoid the very high refresh rates which could cause the burnout of the phosphor. That is the random scan displays. Now let us briefly look at differences between the raster scan and the random scan displays. So when it comes to the electron beam, in raster scan systems, the electron beam is swept across the screen one row at a time from top to bottom. In case of random scan display, the electron beam is directed only to the part of the screen where the picture is to be drawn. So that is the one major difference. When it comes to the resolution, in raster scan system, its resolution is poor because the raster scan system, in contrast, produces zigzag lines that are plotted as discrete point sets, whereas in the resolution of random scan display is relatively better because the system produces smooth line drawings because the CRT beam directly follows the line path. So resolution of random scan systems is comparatively better when compared to raster scan systems. When it comes to picture definition, in case of raster scan system, as discussed earlier, picture definition is stored as a set of intensity values for all the screen points called the pixels in the refresh buffer area in the form of pixmap or the bitmap. Whereas in case of random scan systems, the picture definition is stored as a set of line drawing instructions in the form of a display file. So when we're talking about the realistic display, the capability of the raster scan system to store the intensity values for the pixel makes it very well suited for realistic displays of the scenes contain shadow or color pattern. Whereas in case of random scan systems, these are designed for line drawing and can't display realistic shaded scenes. So if we want to have realistic shaded images or screen drawings, we can better go for random scan systems. And drawing an image, so raster scan system, we use screen points of the pixels to draw an image, whereas in case of random scan system, mathematical functions are used to draw an image. So these are the differences between raster scan and random scan systems. Okay, so let us proceed with the color CRT monitors. How does the color CRT monitor work? A color monitor displays the color pictures by using a combination of phosphors that emit different colored light. Rather than using a single electron gun, we use, or rather than depending upon a single type of phosphor, we use combination of phosphors that emit different colors light. Okay, it produces a range of colors by combining the light emitted by the different phosphors. There are two basic techniques for color display in the CRT monitor. The first technique that we have is called as a beam penetration method, and the second technique we have is something called as the shadow mask technique. Let us first see what we mean by this beam penetration method. In beam penetration technique method, it is used in random scan monitors. As we had seen earlier, there are two types of monitors, raster scan monitors and random scan monitors. So beam penetration technique will be used in random scan monitors. In beam penetration technique, inside of the CRT is coated with two phosphor layers, usually red and green. The outer layer of red and inner layer of green phosphor is used. The color depends on how far the electron beam penetrates into the phosphor layer. So the color on the screen that is produced depends on how far the electron beam can penetrate these two layers of phosphor. One is in red and one more is green layers of phosphor. A beam of fast electron penetrates more and excites the inner green layer, while slow moving electrons excites the outer red layer. An immediate beam or an intermediate beam speed, we can produce a combination of red and green lights which additional two colors, that is orange and yellow. And as we all know, combination of red and green, varying the intensities, we can end up with orange or yellow color. The beam acceleration voltage controls the speeds of the electrons and hence the color of the pixel. If we want to alter the color of the pixel, we need to control the voltage of the, we need to control the beam acceleration voltage in order to alter the speed of the electrons, thereby controlling the color of the pixel. Now this beam penetration technique has its own disadvantages. What are the disadvantages here? It's a low cost technique to produce color in only random scan monitors. And one more huge disadvantage is it can produce only 4 colors. What are those 4 colors? Red, green, orange and yellow. And the quality of picture is not good as compared to the other techniques. The quality of images that is produced using this beam penetration technique, it is not that good as compared to other techniques of drawing colored images. Let us look at let's try to understand the next technique used in color CRT monitor. The technique name is, we call it as shadow mask technique. Shadow mask technique produces wide range of colors as compared to the beam penetration technique. Shadow mask technique is generally used in raster scan displays including color TV. In this technique, CRT has 3 phosphor colored dots at each pixel position. Rather than having one phosphor dot for every pixel, here we have 3 different dots or 3 phosphor colored dots at each position. One dot is for the red, one dot is for the green, and one dot is for the blue light, which are the 3 primary colors as we call them. RGB are called as the 3 primary colors. Combination of these 3 colors can yield any possible color. Now, one dot for red, one dot for green, and one dot for blue light is commonly called as the dot triangle. In cathode ray tubes, there are these electron guns present, one for each color dot, and a shadow mask grid just behind the phosphor screen as it is shown in this particular diagram. So there are 3 electron guns present, unlike a single electron gun until what we discussed till now. Here in the shadow mask technique, there are 3 electron guns for 3 different primary colors, one for each color dot, and a shadow mask is placed just behind the phosphor coated screen. The shadow mask grid consists of a series of holes as shown in this particular diagram, aligned with the phosphor dots on the screen. These electron beams are deflected and focused as a group onto the shadow mask, and when they pass through the hole, they excite a dot triangle. In a dot triangle, 3 phosphor dots are arranged so that each electron beam can activate only its corresponding color dot when it passes through the shadow mask. So in a dot triangle, 3 phosphor dots are arranged so that each electron beam can activate only its corresponding color dot when it passes through the shadow mask. A dot triangle, when activated, appears as a small dot on the screen, which has a color combination of the 3 small dots in the dot triangle. Dot triangle, when activated, appears as a small dot on the screen, which has a color combination of 3 small dots in the dot triangle. By changing the intensity of the 3 electron beams, we can obtain different colors in the shadow mask CRT. By changing the intensities of the electron beams, we can obtain the different colors in the shadow mask CRT. So these are the 2 techniques used for color CRT monitors. One we have is something called as beam penetration technique, as we discussed earlier, and the second technique that we have is called as the shadow mask technique, which we discussed just now. So remember, in shadow mask techniques, we will be using 3 electron guns, and every pixel or every dot on a screen will be having 3 components, 1 dot for the red, 1 dot for the green, and 1 dot for the blue, and there will be a shadow mask which ensures that only one of these 3 dots is eliminated on the screen. Color of or the intensity of the 3 electron beams can be altered to change the colors that is appearing on the CRT screen. That is about the CRT monitors. We discussed the components, we discussed the working mechanism, and now we discuss the different techniques for generating colored images in a CRT, and we also discussed the different types of CRT or the different types of displays, random scan displays and the raster scan displays. Now let us proceed and let us try to understand the one more type of displays called as a flat panel displays. The term flat panel display refers to a class of video device that have reduced volume, weight and power requirement compared to that of the cathode ray tube. As a flat panel display is thinner than CRTs, we can hang them on the walls or wear on our wrist. We have smart watches with these flat panel displays as well. Since we can even write on some flat panel displays, they will soon be available as pocket notebook. We already have it, our smartphones. So they also make use of these flat panel displays. We can separate the flat panel display into 2 categories, that is emissive displays and non-emissive displays. Let us see what you mean by emissive displays. The emissive display or emitters are devices that convert electrical energy into light. For example, plasma panel, TFT displays and LED displays, these are all examples for emissive displays. They convert the electrical energy into light energy. That is what we call as emissive displays. Examples for these emissive displays are the plasma panel displays, TFT displays or thin film electroluminescent displays, and the LED displays, light emitting diode displays. And what are non-emissive displays? Non-emissive displays or non-emitters use optical effects to convert sunlight or light from other source into the graphic patterns. Okay, non-emissive displays, they do not emit the light, they use optical effects to convert the sunlight or light from some other source into the graphic patterns. Example for non-emissive display is the LCD display or the liquid crystal display. Liquid crystal display do not generate their own light, they use a light from the external source or from some other light source. So let us see what do we mean by these plasma display panels or plasma panel displays. So they are also called as the gas discharge displays. As we can see in this particular diagram, it is constructed by filling the region between two glass plates with a mixture of gases that includes neon. A series of vertical conducting ribbons is placed on one glass panel and a set of horizontal ribbon is placed into the other glass panel. So firing voltage is applied across a pair of horizontal and vertical conductors. They cause the gas at the intersection of the two conductors to break down into glowing plasma of electrons and ions. Picture definition is stored in a refresh buffer, and the firing voltages are applied to the refresh the pixel positions at a rate of about 60 times per second. Alternating current methods are used to provide faster application of firing voltages and thus brighter displays. Separation between pixels is provided by electric field of conductor. So one disadvantage of plasma panel is they are very strictly monochromatic device, that means shows only one color rather than black and white. Okay, so that is a flat plasma panel displays where we have two glass plates. In between we are going to fill it with the neon gas, and we are going to apply a series of voltages across the vertical and horizontal conducting ribbons to produce the glowing plasma light. So that is the plasma panel displays. A layer of gas is sandwiched between two glass plates which contains vertical and horizontal conductors. Let us look at the next type of display. We have something called as TFT or thin film electroluminescent displays. It is similar to the plasma display panel, as you can make out from the diagram here. Here the only difference is the region between the two glass plates is filled with phosphorus, such as doped with magnesium instead of the gas. Instead of the gas, we have a phosphor that is sandwiched between the two glass plates, and this phosphorus such as doped with magnesium instead of the gas. When sufficient voltage is applied, the phosphor becomes a conductor in the area of intersection of the two electrodes. Electrical energy is absorbed by the manganese atoms, which then release the energy as a spot of light, similar to the glowing plasma effect in the plasma panel. It requires more power than the plasma panel. So thin film electroluminescent display consumes more power when compared to plasma panel displays. In this, good color and grey color is difficult to achieve. It's very difficult to achieve grey colors in case of these thin film electroluminescent displays. The next type of displays that we have is something called as the LED displays or the light emitting diode. So in this LED displays, a matrix of multicolored light emitting diode is arranged to form the pixel position in the display, and picture definition is stored in the refresh buffer. Similar to the scan line, refreshing of the CRT information is read from the refresh buffer and converted to voltage levels that are applied to the diodes to produce the light pattern on the display. So in case of LED displays, we have a matrix of multicolor light emitting diode that is arranged to form the pixel position in the display, and the picture definition is stored in the refresh buffer. So similar to the scan line refreshing of the CRT information, it's read from the refresh buffer and converted to the voltage levels that are applied to the diodes to produce the light pattern on the display. The next type of display is LCD display. As we had discussed earlier, this is a type of non-emissive display. Liquid crystal display is an example of non-emissive display. These non-emissive display produce this non-emissive display device produce picture by passing polarized light from the surrounding or from an internal light source through liquid crystal material that can be aligned to either block or transmit the light. Okay, so here it produces the picture by passing the polarized light from the surrounding or from an internal light source through the liquid crystal material that can be aligned to either allow the light or block it. It is either to transmit the light as shown in this diagram or block the light. The liquid crystal refers to the fact that these compounds are crystalline arrangement of the molecules, then also flows like a fluid. It consists of two glass plates, each with the light polarizer. As we can see, it consists of two glass plates, each with its own polarizer at right angles to each other. Sandwich the liquid crystal material between the plates. Okay, as you can see, this is vertical and this is horizontal. They are at right angles to each other. So it consists of two glass plates with light polarizer at right angles to each other. Sandwich the liquid crystal material between the plates. Rows of horizontal transparent conductors are built into one glass plate, and rows of vertical glass conductors are put into the other plates. The intersection of the two conductors defines a pixel position. In the on state, the polarized light passing through the material is twisted so that it will pass through the opposite polarizer. In the off state, it will reflect back towards the source. So that is how the LCD display works. So here we have two glass plates, each with the light polarizer at right angles to each other, which sandwiches the liquid crystal material between the plates. So rows of horizontal transparent conductors are built into one glass plate, and the column of vertical conductors are put into place in the other glass plate. The intersection of the two conductors define a pixel position. In the on state, polarized light passes through the material, is twisted so that it will pass through the other polarizer. In the off state, the light will reflect back towards the source. So that is the working of the LCD display. This is one more type of, or which is a type of non-emissive display device. Let's look at one more kind of display device called as a 3D display device or 3D viewing device or 3-dimensional viewing devices. So graphic monitors for display of 3D scenes have been devised using a technique that reflects a CRT image from a vibrating mirror into a spatial position, or that reflect the CRT image from a vibrating flexible mirror. As the varifocal mirror vibrates, it changes its focal length. So we have a mirror here, this is connected to the timing and control system. These vibrations are synchronized with the help of an object on the CRT, so that each point of the object is reflected from the mirror into a spatial position corresponding to a distance of that object from a specified viewing location. Okay, this allows us to walk around an object or a scene and view it from different sides. So this is an example for 3D viewing device or 3-dimensional viewing device. So in this video session, we discussed the working of the CRT, the types of CRTs, the techniques used in CRT, difference between random scan displays and raster scan displays, flat panel displays, the different types of flat panel displays, what do we mean by non-emissive displays, emissive displays, and lastly 3D viewing displays or 3D viewing devices. With this, let us conclude this video session. Thank you.